Have you ever saw a seagull at the shore while you're sitting down eating your nice meal at the beach? I ever thought of if that bird only was able to have human capacity or have a knife, I'd be dead. Well, Alfred Hitchcock defines that truly about that in The Birds. The 1963 was the result. Today, I'm breaking down one of the most haunting and symbolic horror films ever made and why it still holds up 60 years later. So grab your popcorn, grab your snacks, be aware. Maybe if you have a pet bird, put it away so you don't get terrified. Let's get right into it. Hello, everyone. If you didn't see from the opening, I'm going to be reviewing Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds from 1963. It's a really good film, and we're going to get right into it with our first section. Real birds, real terror. So guys, let's start out with what made The Birds so terrifying. They knew they were real. Hitchcock didn't just need special effects. He teamed up with bird trainer Ray Berwick and brought thousands of live birds on set. Crows, seagulls, and sparrows, even ravens. Real birds attacked real actors. And when they wasn't real, Hitchcock used a mix of animatronic birds, matte work and rotoscoping, and clever camera work and tricks to make the attacks look completely natural. And also terrifying. I'm going to play a small clip right here of a group of little kids getting attacked by birds. What the actual Hitchcock? Do you see what I mean? This movie is weird and one of its kind. Now let's move on to the next section. When animal and safety was taken seriously, the ASPA was on set. The birds were even built a bird hospital, an animal hospital, just in case. They talk about it and comment into the craft. Yes, the birds were safe, the actors were safe, everybody was fine. Now on to the next section. Alfred Hitchcock attention to detail. You maybe think Alfred Hitchcock was a total freak in the best ways. He was. He photographed every single person in Bodega Bay to make sure everything matched shot to shot. Nothing was random. And every little detail in the movie in the background collides with the movie. Hitchcock was always attention to detail. He always made sure everything in the movie, even the background, was seamlessly the same almost. And you see that in some parts of the movie. When the characters go to the same location, it's usually the same people, the same type of layout. Like, they make it very, like, weird and ominous. Not just that, but the opening credit scene uses the word birds while birds pick away at it, but we don't see the birds. It's like fake, like the title card gets eaten alive, feels shattered. Even weirder, it was no music. It was just sounds of birds and silence to give that eerie vibe. Just make the movie feel more sinister, especially with the opening scene. And then the ending scene is really uncomfortable. The main group of characters drive away. The only thing we hear is a whole bunch of birds, and then it fades to black. We do not see what happens. We don't get no final execution or end story plot. It just ends there, and it makes us question. Hitchcock was ahead of his time. I'm going to do a video in the future, just break it down him as a director, as other directors. But now on to the next section I'm going to be talking about. What did the birds mean? One thing that no one in the film ever explains is, why is the birds attacking? Is it a virus? Is it apocalypse? We get no reason. And that makes it genius. Philosopher Albert Columbus called it one of its kind and absurd. The moment that we realize the universe doesn't owe us answers for nothing. We can't control them. Steve Carell took even further in saying Hitchcock horror comes from realization that the things we trust, like nature, society, order, can fall apart in an instant. And it shows in the movie. Everyone is having a nice couple days, and then out of nowhere, these birds attack, and the city just collapses. Everyone is screaming. And it kind of shows it in the movie, and Hitchcock really, like, plays with that fallen part of humanity, and it's, like, really interesting. Now on to the part that I think it's really interesting. Gender, power, and punishment. So let's talk about what is underneath the main story. Tevin Heron, the main character, played by Melanie Daniels, represents a smart, not afraid to break the rules woman. And for a movie that's 60 years old, that's a pretty ahead of its time. She shows up alone to a small town, drives alone on a boat, flirts, schemes, and even takes risks, and does what she wants. And then the birds attack. A coincidence? No. Not counteracting the film critics, but some scholars argue that the birds is a punishment for political punishment for nature of for women speaking up and fighting against social norms. So the story plays out in the beginning. Melanie is a strong character in control, but at the end, she snaps. The birds attack her. She ends speechless, and she's pretty much broken and silenced. And one person who did a study on this, Laura Merville, said that this is the male gaze at work. Some female characters are brought into submission by the end of the story to order the restore, aka the male-dominated power. And I feel like that's really interesting, and I think Hitchcock was kind of playing with that. He kind of does that a lot with his characters, especially his female characters. And I feel like the movie was ahead of its time to have a character like heroine Tippin to be so like outgoing and confident. But the movie still holds up to this day, and I'm going to talk about that right now. Why it still matters. The Birds is not a horror movie. It's about the fear of the unknown, losing control, gender roles being punished just by breaking out of gender roles. Maybe the Cold War propaganda, depending if you read on it, what makes sense in a classic film, if you watched it, if you're afraid of scary movies or social commentary. You maybe never gonna look at A Flock of Birds again the same way. But I really like this movie. I really like Hitchcock's work, so I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I really recommend it to people who's if really interested in film work, like film students. I'm a film student. Philosophy lovers, people who like seeing a confident, independent character, like Tipton, and psychological horror fans. And that's pretty much my review. Hopefully you guys liked the video, and I'll see you guys next time. And just make sure the next time you go out with family, not a flock of seagulls try to attack you. So, see you next time.